Hey everybody, what's going on, and welcome to Guns N' Roses Central. And today I wanted to do a true story episode about Izzy Stradlin. Now, I haven't done a whole lot of episodes about Izzy Stradlin, and there was one incident I wanted to focus on today, which is the 1989 arrest that happened on a commercial airliner. So this incident happened on August 27th, 1989. So during a flight from Los Angeles to Indianapolis, the rhythm guitarist urinated in the plane's galley. So according to Izzy, I was drunk and in the middle of a bunch of senior citizen types. I was smoking and the stewardess came over. I told her to F herself, Izzy said. I was drinking so much I had to take a piss. The people in the bathroom, man, it seemed like I waited an hour, so I pissed in the trash can instead. Police welcomed Izzy in Phoenix, Arizona, arresting him on charges of public disturbance for smoking in a non-smoking section, making obscene gestures to passengers, and verbally abusing a stewardess. So according to Izzy, he said, "Next thing I know, we've landed, I'm walking out and I see 10 policemen, and I remember thinking, uh-oh, I think I effed up again." So what made the arrest a little more complicated was that Izzy had a prior drug possession charge, and he basically could have been jailed for up to 6 months. Instead, he got another 6 months probation and had to keep peeing in cups for urine tests to prove he was clean. So according to the FBI agent who actually transferred Izzy to jail, he said, "I believe his original flight to LA was delayed, so by the time Izzy and his girlfriend were on the flight, they'd probably been drinking in the airport for hours. He was never a jerk like a lot of people in higher positions," the FBI agent remembers. In fact, he was quite the opposite, a real nice guy. Oh, he told me he was from Idaho. That was his wake-up call, Izzy later told Alan Niven. He said, "That was the point where I said this has got to effing stop. I didn't want to wind up dead or worse in prison." Instead, Izzy went into rehab and began receiving professional counseling, and what really made him stop, though he thinks now, was because he wanted to. Because he figured at some point your heart's going to pop or your mind's going to snap. Eventually, the shit will kill you, or it does. It kills people all the time. Once I got maybe like a week of sobriety, like actually going a whole week without a drink, I thought, oh God, if I can keep this up. It wasn't easy. I'd been straight for a long time before some of the others had even noticed. They'd offered me a line and I'd say, no thanks, I don't anymore, remember? But these were like the only friends I ever had. Those first 5 years we were together, the band was like our family, dysfunctional as hell, but everybody had each other, you know. So in Paul Elliott's book, The Life and Times of a Rock and Roll Band, Guns N' Roses, he talks about interviewing Izzy Stradlin around the time that Guns N' Roses were opening for the Rolling Stones back in late 1989. So he writes in his book that Izzy was the first to stop using heroin and also cocaine and alcohol. Izzy said at the time, playing with the Stones to 50,000 people is as good as it gets, but that was a weird time for me. So on October 23rd, the day after the band's last night with the Stones, Izzy had to be up at 8 in the morning to meet a probation officer as a result of his arrest 2 months earlier for urinating on a public flight. When he recollected the incident to Paul Elliott, Izzy freely admitted everything that had happened on the airplane. Izzy said, "I was out of my mind, and there was a queue for the bathroom, and I was going, well, I'm either going to piss in my pants or piss on this rug. I was happy I'd pissed. I was completely numb, drunk, and of course, when we landed, the police were there. It's a federal offense if you F up on an airplane." Izzy was also unflinchingly honest when recounting his lengthy battle to overcome his addiction to hard drugs. "If I remember, there was 2 weeks when I really didn't sleep, and it takes months for your body to begin functioning naturally again. There was a point in LA where I wouldn't go outside without a gun. I was carrying a pistol all the time, and eventually I think that works on you too. It's effed. It's no way to live, and when I realized that, I said I gotta get out of here before it gets too effing crazy." So Izzy would end up returning to his home state of Indiana, where both him and Axl were born, and that's where Izzy found some semblance of normality. Izzy said, "I think going back to Indiana woke me up from my haze, point blank," he said. "I managed to stop drinking and using drugs for a month or two, and you get all this anxiety, this energy which you really don't know what to do with. I put some of that energy into riding bikes and skateboarding. I was still drinking a lot, still getting twisted, but it helped me get away from the drugs and that sort of bullshit lifestyle. Every night, the clubs and the parties and the drugs, just pointless stuff, that shit gets old." In 1991, Rolling Stone did a piece on Guns N' Roses while they were on the road promoting their upcoming Use Your Illusion albums. And they talked about Izzy Stradlin and what it was like on tour for him. So after Izzy's arrest, his bandmates teased him tirelessly and gave him the nickname Wizzy. According to the article, they said, "Today, however, Stradlin is clear-eyed, witty, and entirely unpretentious. He is probably the only member of Guns N' Roses who managed to lead a somewhat normal life. He spent most of his Guns N' Roses rejuvenation period by traveling. By this time, the band began work on his albums. He had seen the sights in Germany, Spain, and England, with stops in Paris and Amsterdam thrown in for good measure. Stradlin says that travel is a reward of success he cherishes the most. Meeting the Rolling Stones runs a close second. Everything else he says he can live without, including the drugs that were so prevalent in the band's early days. I feel a lot better because I've stopped, Stradlin says. I don't F around with that stuff anymore. I just reached a point where I said, I'm going to kill myself. Why die for this shit? The guitarist said at the time that the last drink he had was a year and a half ago, and with good company. It was Keith Richards and Ron Wood, and while he doesn't have any regrets about his partying heyday, he said he wouldn't want to relive it either. We used to do a lot of funny shit, Stradlin says, laughing, but I don't miss it. There's nothing like throwing up outside of a bus store going 65 miles per hour. Stradlin spends his off time either skateboarding or bicycling, and he also hauls a motorcycle around with him on tour. While the rest of the Guns N' Roses fly on uncharted MGM Grand Jets, Stradlin travels by himself to avoid the isolation inherent of being in a protective entourage. If you're driving or something, it keeps you in touch with the rest of the world, Stradlin says. Asked about his reputation as the most press-shy band member, Stradlin says he avoids interviews because I've read so much bullshit about our band. At first, Stradlin says, I thought it was kind of funny. Then I was like, I don't need this. Why should I try to explain our version when they're going to write whatever? So that does it for this episode of Guns N' Roses True Story. I hope you guys enjoyed that. Here's the MTV News report of Izzys Arrest from 1989.
Roses News, guitarist Izzy Stradlin, accused of urinating in the galley of an airplane en route from Indianapolis to Los Angeles 2 months ago, came up before a judge in Phoenix, Arizona yesterday and got off with a $2,000 fine and 6 months probation. Stradlin, who had been drinking on the plane and apparently couldn't gain access to a toilet, was taken off the plane during a stopover in Phoenix by FBI agents, who informed him that his behavior constituted a federal offense of interfering with the duties of a flight crew. However, under the terms of a pretrial plea bargain, he was allowed to plead guilty to lesser charges of smoking during a non-smoking flight. Stradlin also agreed to spend 4 months in an alcohol treatment program. That's the news for now. Stay tuned for more music here on MTV.
MTV News. You hear it